Hey, we are here with JW Ocker and Dani October. JW is the author of A Season of the Witch, The Magic and Mayhem of Halloween in Salem, Massachusetts, and the website Odd Things I've Seen. He spent a month living in Salem to write that book. And Dani October lives in Sleepy Hollow itself and frequently blogs and posts photos from there online at facebook.com/This is Halloween 31 and Instagram.com /Terry Hollowtown. And yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Real quick. So first question for both of you. You're kind of experts of your individual towns there. Let me know just real quick, what makes JW, I know it's an easy question, but what makes Salem a perfect Halloween season destination?
Yeah, it is a really easy question to answer, right? It's for a lot of reasons. I think there's the time of year, right? The New England falls are great. They're perfect. The history, you're going back to the 17th century with the history of the witches there. The way the town has embraced Halloween is probably the biggest reason, though, out of all of them. I mean, the place feels like Halloween year round. So it just has everything you want in celebrating the season, all within like whatever 2 square blocks.
Very cool. And yeah, you said, I mean, you can go there just about any time to experience Halloween. Is that just because it's Salem, or do they have things going on throughout the year for people that are really into Halloween?
Yeah, these days there's all kinds of stuff you can do that's Halloween related year round. The museums are still there, the witch museums. The only difference in October in September these days is a lot more crowded, and there's a lot more ad hoc events, a lot more kind of like vendor events and theater events that are specifically Halloween themed. But you can find something spooky to do there any month of the year.
Very cool. Dani, tell me about Sleepy Hollow or Tarrytown.
Yeah, well, Sleepy Hollow and Tarrytown are kind of one in the same. It actually used to all be Tarrytown, and it wasn't until like the 1990s that it changed. North Tarrytown changed its name to Sleepy Hollow. A lot of people don't know that. And that was to kind of like bring a lot of tourism in. And I feel like since then, it's really like started the whole Halloween town aspect of Sleepy Hollow. And for the past decade, I have to say, like, it's really come into its own and made a name for itself as a Halloween town. There are so many events to do. The Pumpkin Blaze, the Horseman's Hollow, haunted houses, hay rides. I mean, it's just like an ideal place for October. You can come here any day in October, and the air and the energy is just like this electric orange type feel. You know, you just like feel the spirit. And because it's like so much smaller than like say Salem or something like that, it has a more intimate feel. And we have the history too. You know, Washington Irving put us on the map with the legend of Sleepy Hollow, and that's world known. Like everyone knows that, and everyone wants to come here and look for the Headless Horseman come October. And it's really great because he's often walking around. We have a Headless Horseman that just walks the streets of October.
Are there multiple Headless Horsemen, or like is somebody known as the Headless Horseman?
No, we have our one Headless Horseman, and he rides through town. And I swear to God, one time I even saw him coming out of the supermarket. That was when I first moved here 2 years ago in October, and I saw the Headless Horseman coming out of the supermarket. And I was like, I've come home, you know. So the people here and the energy is just amazing. They've really, really embraced the legend. This year is actually the bicentennial, so it's the 200th anniversary of the legend of Sleepy Hollow. So this past year, you know, aside from the virus and all that, last October was amazing. More people are coming than ever, just thousands and thousands of people. We're in close proximity to Manhattan, so it just, you know, our streets are just packed in our Halloween parade. So it's really amazing all October long.
So JW, with the next thing I want to ask about is, how do these towns promote? I mean, do they need to promote? Do they have, is there a Salem Witch Tourism Board? Or
there is a tourism board. Their issue historically, at least for the past say 5-10 years, is they've over rotated on Halloween, right? They don't need to really PR that too much. So what they've had to do is leaven that a bit with, you know, stuff about their restaurants and stuff about their coast and stuff about their, you know, proximity to Boston. So they've actually had to do not an anti-Halloween campaign, but they've had to actually put more money into broadening what they're kind of pulling in tourists for, because the Halloween was automatic. They could pull in tourists on Halloween in October without sending out a single, commercial or whatever. So now these days they're a lot more balanced. They do a little bit of all of it, because I think they've been successful in promoting themselves as an urban destination, as a New England destination, as a historic destination, and as a Halloween destination. So I think their problem has traditionally not been, getting the word out about Halloween in Salem.
Right.
Yeah.
Dani, what about with Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow? Is there a tourism board?
Yeah, so visit sleepyhollow.com is pretty much the website to go to if you want to visit Sleepy Hollow. They have a calendar section, which is perfect, because you can go to any day in October and it'll tell you every single event that's going on, the links. I mean, it's just perfect. I've been using it for like the whole, a decade probably. But as far as like promotion goes, like we don't, kind of the same with Salem. Like we're getting to a point we don't need to promote that much because it's world known. Everyone knows the legend of Sleepy Hollow. We have like our TV show and the movies, and Johnny Depp, like he did it for us, right? So, but what's funny is a lot of people don't even realize Sleepy Hollow is a real place. So when they do realize that, they're like, oh my gosh, I have to go there. It's funny, like some people think it's still fictional, which I guess is a little understandable, but now that word's getting out that we're such a Halloween town, like I said, last October, there's thousands of people here. So it's, we're not having any problem with promotion whatsoever. But also on my website, Terry Hollow Town, I promote like year round and post pictures and, all the happenings. So
JW, with the pandemic happening, do you know how Salem is coping right now, or what does it look like out there?
Yeah. So, I mean, in Massachusetts, this changes every week, obviously, for everybody. But in Massachusetts, they've been doing a pretty good job, in New England in general, of containing the virus. But it's definitely transformed Salem. So if you go today in August, which generally is a pretty busy time in Salem, you'll see everything's open, which is interesting. Everything's open, but all the restaurants all have patios now. So now you're eating outside. There's a mask ordinance where you have to wear a mask. Even outside, you have to wear a mask downtown. Not all the tourists are, doing that, but technically you're supposed to. So it's definitely changed. It's a changed place. It's a lot more trepidatious. Obviously, the joke goes around that Salem is used to masks, but this is a whole new kind of different thing for them. So it is definitely a different place. But in some ways, it's still Salem and still full of tourists and everything's open. So we'll see what happens.
Have they canceled anything for this year, or does everything look like they're still waiting to evaluate?
I think most things are waiting. I think I saw the Salem Horror Fest, which is a big film festival here. It might be going virtual. So I think they're still trepidatious. If you've ever been to a Halloween night in Salem, it's hundreds of thousands, close to 1 million people. It's chaos.
Yeah.
So I think they probably going to try to avoid that, but nobody's made real announcements yet. I think people feel like they have another maybe month or so to go before they have to.
Yeah. Dani, what about with you guys?
Yeah, it's pretty much like the same thing. So we're just New York, Massachusetts, the whole, Northeast coast, we're doing okay. But it's early, like we're just starting to reopen. So we have outdoor dining on our main street. We have Friday and Saturdays, all the restaurants put their tables outside, which is really nice. I've contacted pretty much everyone, and they think I'm crazy because it's July, and I'm like, what's going on for October? But they just don't know yet, and they said they'll probably know closer to September. The Blaze, which is the Great Pumpkin Blaze at Van Cortlandt Manor, is still going on because that's an outdoor event, and people are always kind of spaced out with that anyway. So that's still going on, so that'll be nice. Things like our parade, where thousands of people come and they're all, squished together like Halloween night in Salem, that may not happen. But like with Salem, like people are still going to come. It's October. They're still going to come. You have to wear a mask, of course. But we do have indoor shopping and outdoor dining, which is good. So I'm just hoping the closer we get to October, the better things get, and we have to see. It's kind of too early to tell, but on visitsleepyhollow.com, they're going to keep you updated, and on my site as well. constantly keep people updated.
That's great. Hey,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more about the Blaze. What is that? That sounds like that's the big,
beautiful.
that's the
So
thing.
it's a little bit away. It's like 20 minutes away, but it's Van Cortlandt Manor, which is a beautiful old house, and they have about 5,000 pumpkins outside carved, and there's dinosaurs, there's trains, there's a whole spider web. I mean, if you Google any of the images, you'll just be blown away. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's such a great experience. So it takes about an hour to walk through. It's not small. It's a big event, and people come from all over to go. And what's great is they have it even going into November now, because it's become so big. October just isn't enough, which is a dream come true for me. I always said we need to extend October, right, into November.
Right.
So that's what they started doing with a couple of events here, a couple of shows, and the Pumpkin Blaze. We're extending into November now. So
And I, when I went to Sleepy Hollow, I wasn't sure what would be there, but what struck me was that it definitely is very perfect New England spooky, and you guys have it's just the neatest cemetery that's there by the bridges. Can you tell us a little bit about those? And they go back to what, like even pre-Revolutionary War.
It is. So when the Dutch settlers first came in, it was like the early 1600s. This was pre-Revolutionary days. Philip's Manor started the Old Dutch Church. So that's been there since, I think it's like 1630 something, maybe 1640 something. And that's the spot that Washington and Irving wrote where the Headless Horseman's bones lay, in that graveyard. So it's a beautiful, beautiful ancient burying ground. The original bridge isn't there. It's rotted away, whatever was left. But if you go to the side of the river, and I have it in one of my videos, actually, you can see some stones of a remnant of like where a bridge used to be spanning the Bocantico River, which goes right by there. And what's pretty cool about the Old Dutch burying ground too is they just added a gravestone last year. I don't know if you guys know about this, of what was known as the Witch of Sleepy Hollow. It's a legend called Mother Hulda. And she actually took up arms in the Revolutionary War and fought defending Sleepy Hollow, and she died. But she was a Bohemian woman, into medicine and herbs. So she was our town witch, and she was killed in the Revolutionary War. They put her in the burying ground, but they never gave her a proper burial until last year, where they actually added a tombstone for her. So we have that. We have a new legend and lore marker that was just added that literally says, this is where the Headless Horseman, rests at night. And this is where he's known to gallop to and fro, with his horse, which is really amazing because we never had that before. So those two things are new. There'll be, I think, pretty big draws this year for this October.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
So JW, you spent a month living in Salem to write your book. What's like from the book? What would you say is the one thing people can't miss, or that surprised you from writing the book?
Yeah, I think I get the email a lot from people saying, "Hey, obviously we're not going to be spending a month in Salem ourselves. What is the one or two things we have to do if we have a few hours there?" And it's an easy answer for me. I always tell them, do the Essex Street Pedestrian Mall. So the Essex Street Pedestrian Mall is a cobblestone walkway just for pedestrians that goes, right down the center of the city, a few blocks. They actually extend it a little bit during October. And on that pedestrian strip is everything you need to know to do Salem. I mean, that's where you're going to see the shops. You're going to see the witchcraft houses. You're going to see haunted houses. You're going to see the street performers. You're going to see people wearing costumes. That's where they congregate. There's restaurants there. There's history there. It is Salem all in one street. So I always encourage people to go there. And then from that street, everything is easy to get to. Like the statue of Samantha from Bewitched is right there. The graveyard, the old burial ground is just, a block away. But I always tell people, just walk that strip and you could say for the rest of your life that you did Salem. So I'm always trying to get people to just like hang out there and just enjoy themselves there.
JW, also tell us some other Halloween related tourist destinations that you've been to that is Baltimore a good place for people who are into Poe?
For people who are into Poe, Baltimore's a great place. I mean, you're going to go see the place where he was buried. Like, to me, there's a lot of Poe sites on the East Coast and in London, where he grew up. But Baltimore is where you want to go to see his bones. I mean, that's his grave site. There's a lot of good stories around his grave. There's an amazing statue in the area as well, the Ezekiel Moses statue of Edgar Allan Poe. It's a cool city. Obviously, Richmond is where you go to really see Poe. That's where he grew up. That's where the Richmond Poe Museum is, which is an amazing museum. But, if you're a Poe fan, you got to go see his grave. And of course, he has a house in Boston or in Baltimore as well that you can go see.
Any other destinations you could think of that should be on this list? Obviously, New Orleans. But anything, I always argue LA is the greatest Halloween destination for LA. I mean, that's why we do Midsummer Scream here. But,
the ones I would say, when I tell people, I say Salem, obviously for obvious reasons. Sleepy Hollow, I'm a big booster of as well. I love Sleepy Hollow for pretty much almost all the same reasons. New Orleans is great. It has its own flavor of Halloween, obviously. I always point people to, LA is a great one too, because again, you guys are doing so much huge events there. And of course, the horror movie industry there has a huge history. I always tell people like Orlando. I mean, you go down to do Disney and Universal have made a version of Halloween that's unparalleled anywhere on the planet. So I'm always telling people it's hot down there. Doesn't have like the feel of, New York or New England, but man, it is so Halloween down there. It's unbelievable. And then obviously I also try to tell people to go to Ireland, because there's a few places in Ireland that are starting to pick up this as well. Cause that's where Halloween started, is over there. And they're starting to pick up that idea like, oh, we are the birthplace of Halloween. We can actually kind of turn that into an event. So those are usually the ones I always throw out when people are asking about Halloween. Also, Anoka, Minnesota. That's a big Halloween destination as well. They were the first one to throw a civic parade for Halloween back, 60, 50, 80 years ago. Everything is the same amount of time for me. But they also have a big kind of Halloween destination as well. They painted on the sides of their buildings. So there's a lot of cool Halloween destinations, enough to go around, I think.
Dani, do you have any favorites from that, or anything that JW missed?
I don't know if you guys know, I'm a ghost hunter as well. So I've been doing that for many, many years. And I have to say, if you want to go and be terrified, spend a night at the Lizzie Borden house, because I did that. And I've ghost hunted in New Orleans, Gettysburg, Salem, Sleepy Hollow, pretty much everywhere on the East Coast. And I've never been so scared in my entire life. So that's one of the things that I love about New England. Like, we seem to have this, haunting aspect, especially in the fall. It's just beautiful. The trees are gorgeous, and there's just ghosts everywhere. If you look up, this haunted inn, this haunted bed and breakfast, you can find so many. You can go almost anywhere, and you'll have like a spooky time in these nice New England towns. But Fall River and the whole Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast, I highly, highly recommend.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So JW, you have a new book coming out called Cursed Objects.
I do. It's street. I'll give you the pitch. Yeah. It's streets mid-September, September 15th. And it's nonfiction. And I write about probably the most infamous cursed objects on the planet. I try to assemble like a really comprehensive list, and it ended up being about 50 of the most interesting and the most, seemingly cursed objects that in history. And it's a global book, US, all the way over to Asia and Europe, of course. And for the book, I write about them and research them. Some of them are lost to history. But other ones I visit, I talk about, I buy some cursed objects. So in some ways, it's like an encyclopedia of cursed objects, but in other ways, it's also a travelogue, which is, kind of my genre of nonfiction. So it's a little bit of everything.
Very cool. We'll be looking out for that one. And Dani, anything you have coming up? You want to?
Well, last year, I do a costume drive every year for children in need. And last year was amazing. I raised like 200 costumes for homeless, children in need and homeless children. I also started last year. So Main Street always has like white lights, and I made them all put orange lights last year for October. So I was just annoying to the point that they did it. And it looked really beautiful. So they're into that. This year, it's going to be a little tricky, but you know what? I feel like with the virus going on, we need to like step up our Halloween game and go above and beyond and make it even more special than it ever was, because it was easy before, right? Like everything was there and it was just done. Now we have to start getting creative and thinking of like, well, what can we do to make this special? So we don't look back on this as like, oh, the year the virus ruined Halloween. Like, I'm not having that. So have to think of some things, in the works, but I'm sure we'll come up with some good stuff.
Well, I think that's a good message to end this on. We have to, I think that's part of why we're doing today as well, to say, Halloween can't stop. We have to make it happen however we can. And thanks, guys, for being here and being such champions for the Halloween spirit, representatives of where you guys are from, and we'll see you guys soon.
All right, thanks so much, David.